welcome to the 6th episode of Season 5 of the Ubuntu UK podcast. It's Tuesday the 8th of May 2012, and in this episode we're going to review the Eco PC, which runs Ubuntu, and listen to 2 interviews from our very own correspondent at the Ubuntu Developer Summit. We will, of course, cover the latest news, events, bit about Ubuntu, and tomorrow's Technology Today. If you're listening live, you can send us messages using the chat facility on the website and in the IRC channel. I'm Laura, and with me this week are Mark.
Hello.
And Tony.
Hi.
Alan isn't here.
No.
Alan is in fact Alan is in fact our very own correspondent at the Ubuntu Developer Summit.
Yes. Him throughout the show. He's being our Alan Wicker. Huh? Who was a famous travel correspondent.
Oh, yes.
You're all far too young to know about. Yes. So we sent...
He's in California? That's right.
Yes, Oakland in California at the Ubuntu Developer Summit. And we just watched the keynote from Mark Shuttleworth, which we'll talk a bit about later. But it looks like it's a very big event, unlike when I used to go, where it was a lot smaller and a lot less flash.
In the back room of a pub.
Yes. Back in the old days.
That said, the location Alan has chosen to do some of the interviews might leave a little bit to be desired.
In best UPC tradition.
Yeah, he does seem to have done it outside the toilets.
Possibly even inside the toilets at some points.
So we've got a couple of interviews to play out during the course of the show, so you'll hear those as they come along, and we hope you enjoy them. But bear in mind, they weren't recorded in a studio. Unlike this high-quality content and material.
So, Tony, what have you been doing?
I've been having some very painful dental work done.
Nice.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, 40 minutes in a dentist's chair, having bits of my tooth drilled out. I was reminiscing about when I used to have well-behaved, nice teeth that didn't cause me lots of pain. And to be fair, they don't cause pain until I'm in the dentist's chair. And then it's mostly the dentist causing the pain in the tooth. Pain to the tooth. But yeah, so that was not very nice. I've got to go back in a week and have another work done.
So you'll be able to catch us up on how it goes next time.
Yeah, I'm sure for those of you on the
Tony's tooth updates.
Absolutely. And I didn't ask if they were using open molar, unfortunately. It didn't come up in
you can let us know next time.
Okay.
More suction, please.
So, Mark.
Hello.
What have you been up to?
I have upgraded my home and my work desktop to 1204.
Ooh.
And I've been using Unity in a shift from tradition.
How?
Because you weren't using that before.
No, I've been using KDE pretty much exclusively since I started using Linux.
So why the move?
I suppose over the past year or so, I've become more of a sort of keyboard-centric user of my computer. I've learnt to use Vim, and that's made me very keyboardy. And Unity now is very sort of... I mean, it's not specifically keyboard focused, but you can get a lot done very quickly with just the keyboard in terms of getting to your applications and getting around your applications with the HUD as well.
Lots of keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah, lots of keyboard shortcuts, and a very quick reference to keyboard shortcuts. If you just press and hold the home key, then
like
it's not actually it's not actually happening.
He just
on my
demoed
laptop.
that for you listeners.
There we go. Yes. Then you get a nice... No, it's not doing it. Anyway, you get a nice sort of quick, like a cheat sheet appear on your screen that tells you all of the keyboard shortcuts. And then, obviously you've got the HUD to search through the menus and other cool stuff like that.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Laura, what have you been doing?
I got a Kindle. So now all my books are stuck in the Amazon cloud and I can't sell them on afterwards and I can't lend them to anybody. But I do have a Kindle.
Oh.
So it's shiny. It's good.
You like it?
I do like it, yes. It's very cool.
Excellent. And have you got lots of books on it?
Yes.
Until Amazon decide to take them away from you?
Yes.
That's all good.
But it is shiny.
Well, that's all that matters. Right, okay. Well, should we listen to the first one of these interviews then?
While we have some cake.
We're going to have some cake, yes. Be back in a bit.
Okay, I'm here with Thomas Bushnell from Google, and wanted to talk to you a bit about what you do with Ubuntu. So if you could tell me what you do at Google and how you use Ubuntu, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm one of 2 engineers on a team that we call the Ubuntu team. Our internal distribution of Ubuntu is called Ubuntu, with a fairly transparent naming scheme there. And Ubuntu is the primary engineering platform for engineers and a wide variety of non-engineers as well, who salesmen or recruiters and all kinds of other people use it as well. So it's the standard desktop platform at Google for people in their offices.
So someone starts at Google, they've just been hired, got a new job, they get a choice of machines, or they get a machine shipped to them. Is it a standard Ubuntu install, or is it heavily modified? What sort of things do you do to an Ubuntu install?
So they're going to get a choice for their desktop of what monitor they want, and sometimes a choice of what desktop they want. There's some restrictions there, and often all the people in a team tend to have the same hardware if there are special cases. The install that they're going to get from us is going to be a modified Ubuntu. And the modifications that we make are not the ones a lot of people expect. When people first heard about Ubuntu, they thought, it's going to be sort of like Mint, only with a more googly feel and a different set of desktop applications. In fact, we would prefer to leave all that stuff as unmodified as possible, because then we don't have to support it, and most of our users are going to go and customize it anyway. So instead, the customization that we do deals with the unique security situation that we're in. We have to be much more cautious about security. We have packages that we ban, that we prohibit the use of or try to inhibit. Typically ones that, for example, if somebody the part of Deja Dupe that by default on Ubuntu backs up your system to Ubuntu 1 is great for consumers. I use it at home on my desktop. It would be a disaster for Google. We're not willing to store our backups on a third-party service. So there's a number of things like that are security related. We also have a whole bunch of custom file systems and build tools that engineers use to build Google software.
So you say the user gets a slightly customized version and they might tweak it. What level of customizability do they have? Is it a fully locked down, or is it? Do they have the ability to install different desktop environments, or what kind of level of customizing can they have?
There are some small exceptions, but as a general rule, our users can customize whatever they please in terms of installing packages and so forth. We use Puppet to maintain the systems, like a lot of large installations do, and in general, if Puppet mandates a certain file and there's a security reason for it, we're not going to. That's the way it's going to be. But if it was providing a sensible default, and we have no reason to prohibit users from customizing it, and a user wants to customize it, we can just add the ability to do so. So that's pretty common for us. So, for example, we install standard X configurations, and we call them knobs, but they're just debconf values, and a user can say that they want a custom X configuration. There's no security issue here. So if the user sets that, then our Puppet config will just ignore it and not override it with our X configuration.
You're a somewhat different organization to many corporates where someone might start a new job. With many new recruits, they'd get a Windows laptop and there'd be no choice, and Microsoft Office, and they get the standard set of tools. Do you find new recruits take easily to having a different desktop environment than a traditional environment, or are they all already familiar with Ubuntu and Linux in general, or how does that work out?
I would say most engineers have used Unix before. There are surely some who have not. For non-engineers, it's going to be more unusual to them. As a company, we tend to preference the use of web applications for most things. That's not a huge shocker. So the result is that when a recruiter starts, say, a recruiter might not have used Linux before, but Ubuntu's pretty easy to use. Even Lucid, which is the current standard install that we offer, and they're going to be using Google Docs for writing documents and for presentations. They're going to be using our custom in-house tools for applicant tracking and all of that, which are just all web tools. We do have some users who have particular needs for other operating systems, though generally even there it's pretty uncommon for them to be on the desktop. So we do offer Mac and Windows laptops.
Would that be for design, or if they've got proprietary apps they absolutely need? Or?
Yes. There are use cases in business side where Excel is critical, and users who may just have a giant migration task that they haven't undertaken yet, and so they can't use Google Spreadsheets for whatever particular reason they might have. Some users prefer the Apple hardware, and so including a fair number of engineers. So laptops, we have less Linux penetration, though we're working to increase it. And
you obviously have a main presence down in Mountain View, but I'm guessing you have engineers all over the world.
Yep.
And does that present any additional challenges when you've got security updates that you need to get out in a timely fashion to all these machines all over the world? How do you manage that kind of stuff?
The machines are all automatically configured, so the owner of the machine doesn't have to take any steps for it to be updated. So, excuse me. So in fact, engineers are distributed all around the world, as you say: Sydney, India, Dublin, Moscow, Germany, both coasts of the United States. So if there's an emergent security issue, in fact, we're able to respond faster than some because, as a general rule, we can have on-call engineers distributed around the globe. And my own team, in fact, is starting a new team in Europe. And one of the purposes behind doing that is to have sort of on-duty and on-call coverage for more hours of the day.
And for those users who are using Linux, they're going to encounter bugs. We know they exist.
Sure.
Do you have internal bug processing systems, or do you expect them to file bugs in things like Launchpad and Bugzilla externally? How does that escalation work for a user who encounters issues?
We have an internal bug system that's in use for all of our products in Google, and users just file bugs there. We also have a desktop support team that is ideally the first point of contact. But if a user knows that it's really a bug and not a support issue, they may file it directly with us instead of going through our desktop support team. And then we'll escalate it to Launchpad if that's appropriate. And we have a support contract with Canonical as well that we use to escalate issues. Many of our users are completely familiar with Ubuntu and may file their own bug in Launchpad and then reference that, or find the bug, or say, I think I'm seeing this bug number whatever.
Right.
So we and then, as most bug tracking systems do, we just maintain a pointer from one to the other so that it's easy to record after the fact.
Right. And now you mentioned that your base config is based on 10.04 LTS, and we've just released 12.04 LTS with some fairly significant changes for users who are based on 10.04. Do you see yourselves migrating to 12.04, or are you already trialing that kind of stuff?
Oh yes, we're already in testing for 12.04. The fact that during the development cycle there was a pretty significant commitment to make it installable and usable as much as possible was a huge help to us. It made it possible for us to have hundreds of testers now, well before the release. We had 150 or 200 testers using Precise in February. And we could never have done that if installs were broken most days. But this time, I mentioned to Mark Shuttleworth how delightful it was that over the course of about a 4-month period, installs were broken a total of maybe 7 or 10 days, is my recollection of it. That is delightful. So we are, of course, we're going to be transitioning from Lucid to Precise, where there's going to be a substantial amount of time in which my team is responsible for supporting both as we deprecate Lucid and migrate people to Precise.
Have there been any additional challenges that you've uncovered when using Linux as the default desktop in the organization?
I've been using Linux and free software systems longer than they've existed. So, I've always been a Unix person. I've never been a Windows person. The only thing I've ever done with Windows is remove it. I did have a Mac that was dual booted, but the only thing I ever did with Mac OS was install the dual boot and then run Debian on the other half. So I'm not a good person to tell you what the Delta looks like. Right. I hear almost no... I've never heard an engineer at Google or a non-engineer complain that they had to use Unix on their desktop. It doesn't happen. And it's much easier for us to support, especially from a security perspective.
Thanks very much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you, Alan.
And now it's time for the news. The UK High Court has ordered 4 large ISPs to block access to the Pirate Bay, the BitTorrent indexing site, after a ruling that it breaches copyright laws. Jim Killock of the Open Rights Group called the ruling pointless and dangerous and said, "Internet censorship is growing in scope and becoming easier, yet it never has the effect desired."
I wrote a blog post about this last week and highlighted it as the first kind of major attempt to block access to websites on a countrywide level. And having the infrastructure in place for that has only really come about since the Digital Economy Act.
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm full of cake. Somebody did point out that Newsbin was also blocked, apparently.
Yes, that was a few months ago, I think.
Yeah, there's a complex issue. One that perhaps we should come back to as a hot topic in the future.
Although, interestingly, there's now 1 million mirrors of the Pirate Bay which are readily accessible.
Wow.
And if you use something like the Tor network, you can still get to it.
As they say in Jurassic Park, technology finds a way. Well, they say life finds a way, but we'll talk back to
the internet finds a way. Anyway, that's what it's there for.
Yes, a recent issue of Linux Format magazine featuring a cover emblazoned "Learn to Hack" was removed from the shelves of Barnes & Noble bookstores in the US. The magazine, which contained an article demonstrating various common security exploits and how to protect against them, was removed after the retailer received a complaint. The article has been published in full on the magazine's Tux Radar website. Is that you laughing at Barnes & Noble?
Yeah.
More of the people who complained about it, I think, because they clearly have no idea what they're talking about. Although I suppose for Barnes & Noble, on the strength of a complaint, removing a magazine from their shelves without properly investigating what it was that it was actually telling people how to do.
Yeah, and if you go into Barnes & Noble and complain about whatever the American equivalent of Heat magazine is, does that get it removed from the shelves? How easy is it to do?
And some more government internet blocking news. Following an inquiry into child protection last month, the government is expected to consult ISPs regarding plans to block pornography by default, creating an opt-in system for customers wishing to access adult material. The Open Rights Group warned against filters as they would block a wide range of innocent material, and nobody should be advocating broader and simpler censorship.
Hear, hear.
Yes, a lot of ISPs already have an opt-in system, don't they?
Do they?
Yeah, well, some do.
And you can obviously install your own system, which is what I think you should be expected to do if you want to filter stuff out.
Yes.
It shouldn't be down to... Well, you shouldn't have to say, yes, I want to look at adult material. It should be assumed that you want to look at whatever's available, unless you say otherwise.
And to be fair, it's not that easy to fall over adult material on the web. People seem to think it is. Email, you get lots of spam. But, I spend all my days searching the web for whatever, and just for innocent things, and I don't fall over adult material by accident.
Yeah, indeed. And also...
Not trying hard enough.
Clearly not.
What?
But that's the point, really.
The other question is, what constitutes adult material? Obviously, what's offensive to some people is educational, perhaps, to others, or, if someone's just curious or wants to know more about a particular subject, they might need to go to a website which some people would consider to be adult material.
And then there's Mail Online.
Yes, and having worked in educational institutions where one has to make decisions about what to filter and what not to, it's very difficult to do it even in that contained environment accurately, because what is one person's inappropriate material is another person's research material, be it on drugs or sex or whatever.
Yeah.
But yes, so it sounds like you're going to have to declare if you want to see nicely turned ankles in the future.
The jury in the ongoing case here. The jury in the ongoing case of Oracle versus Google have ruled in Google's favour in all respects of the copyright infringement claims, except that of Google's implementation of the Java APIs. The jury ruled that, if APIs are found to be subject to copyright, then Google's usage of the APIs in Android infringed on Google's copyright. Sorry, Google...
What?
Sorry.
I'm beginning to understand why the case
I know what
takes...
I said.
You said
Google's
that
usage-
anyone else reading this would have difficulty, but you could cope.
Sorry, Google's usage of APIs in Android infringed on Oracle's copyright. However, the judge is yet to rule whether an API can be copyrighted, and if they are able to be copyrighted, whether Google's infringement would be allowed anyway under fair use.
Brilliant. Clear as mud. Well done, Mark.
Yes.
So the Google case goes on.
The Google case goes on. They're now into the patent infringement bit.
Right, okay. Well done. That's the end of the news.
And we have some events.
Tell us about the events.
The first event is, of course, OggCamp.
When's that?
It's on the 18th and 19th of August.
Where's that?
It's in Liverpool at the Liverpool John Moores University.
Who's that?
Who's what?
I don't know. I was just saying other things.
Oh, I see. Yes, so our website is now live at oggcamp.org. It's more than just a picture of us on stage. It's actually got information and stuff.
It's quite a cool website, actually.
Yeah, very good job by Fab of Linux Outlaws for putting that together for us.
And Dan.
And Dan for writing a lot of the content. I wrote one of the pages. Dan.
Oh, well done you as well.
Dan wrote, I think, most of the rest of it at the moment. So they... we've got information on the venue, on the hotel. You can now book a ticket on there. So if you're thinking of coming, tickets are free.
Yes.
There's a link to Eventbrite on the front page. If you just click on there and register, so then we know how many people are coming. And that helps us do things like get sponsorship and make sure we've got enough rooms and things like that. Count the chairs, yes.
I'm going, apparently.
And well, it's worth getting in quickly because last year they all went within a couple of days.
Yeah, we do have a limited number of tickets. I think we've decided not to release them in batches this time. So when they're gone, they're gone.
Well, last year we had to negotiate for bigger rooms.
Yes,
there was such
we know what our capacity is this year. Basically,
and that's it.
It's about the same as last year, but yeah, once they're gone, that's it. So
get in
quick, and book your hotel. There's information on the website about how to get into the official hotel, and how to get the discounted rate there.
Bearing in mind it's holiday season, it's worth trying to get.
And the hotel is right next to the train station and right next to the venue, so I'd recommend it.
Excellent.
I had to last time we did OggCamp in Liverpool. I had to stay about 10 miles outside and get the train in, and that wasn't very fun.
Okay.
And there's another event.
Yep.
Yay! Bitcoin.
Bitcoin what?
Bitcoin 2012.
Ooh, 2012. Isn't that infringing some sort of Olympic?
Possibly. So it's the 15th and 16th of September, well after the Olympics, in Russell Square in London. And it's about Bitcoin. We were trying to work it out what you'd do.
If you, maybe you can, I don't know.
Discuss what you spent your Bitcoins on. I don't know.
Well, go to the website at bitcoin2012.com and find out.
They're going to be so glad they emailed it to us. Really sold it to everybody listening. Right, and that's the end of the events.
Hello, and welcome to Tomorrow's Technology Today. I'm Douglas Austin Cambridge. Good day to all our listeners, wherever you are around the British Empire. In today's look at Tomorrow's Technology Today, which we recorded yesterday, we'll be telling you about all sorts of technology you can expect tomorrow, or possibly the day before that.
Don't you mean the day after that, Douglas?
Well, it can only be our doyen of the domestic, Deirdre Morris Oxford.
Good day, Douglas. Whatever can you be talking about?
It is predicted with a fair degree of certainty that within the century, humans will be capable of time travel.
If you you'd read the works of Professor Albert Einstein, you'd know that was impossible.
Not according to the chaps at Imperial College. They have top men working on it.
Who?
Top men.
In that case, Douglas, if time travel would be invented, why hasn't someone from the future...
Or the past.
Why hasn't someone from the future already turned up to tell us about it?
Perhaps they just haven't arrived yet.
It's time travel, Douglas.
Yes, splendid, isn't it?
You have the intellectual rigour of a beagle.
Jolly good. My father used to have a beagle as a gun dog.
Really?
Yes, he accidentally shot it.
Perhaps in the future he can travel back in time and unshoot it?
How could a beagle travel back in time? Sometimes you really are a silly sausage, Deirdre.
I'm starting to think your father shot the wrong mammal.
But the good news about time travel is that you never need be late for gin and tonics at your club ever again.
How is your liver these days, Douglas?
That's all from Tomorrow's Technology Today. A Toodle Pip and God Save the King.
So I'm holding an Eco PC from those lovely folks at Eco PC, who sent it to Tony.
Yes, we've got a nice piece of hardware to review.
Yeah.
This is an Eco PC N1A, which is advertised or marketed as a very low power PC. It's an embedded device. So, Laura, do you want to describe what you've got there?
Yeah, it's about a hand span by a hand span.
How big are your hands?
Well, my hands. And
It's 19.5 centimetres by 17.5
There you go.
centimetres by
And-
4 centimetres high.
and it's stealth black.
Yep.
Has on the front, it's got a single silver button, power button, and 2 USB ports, and I guess audio ports.
Yep.
It's all very silver.
One of the things I noticed about the audio ports on the front is that they're not labelled.
No, not at all. They're just 2 very cool silver ports on a black background.
Yes, but it makes it hard to know what
they're
to stick. Yeah, what they're for, which to stick in.
It's like the old days.
Yes, the whole case is sort of metal. It feels very sturdy. It feels like you could use it to jack up a car or something. Thanks.
Laura hits computer.
Yeah. And one of the nice things about the unit is that it essentially runs silently, or near as silently. There are no fans in it. It's got a sort of laptop-style PSU, so that doesn't make any noise. There's a sort of grill on the top to let some of the heat out, but there are no fans internal to the case. You can get it with a solid-state disk, which obviously means it runs totally silently. The model we've got here has got a laptop-style hard drive, which is still very quiet. But that would make it good for use in a living room or some other environment where noise is a bit of an issue, or you don't want to have too much noise kicking around.
So turning it around at the back, we have a VGA output, a digital output,
Yep, DVI, yeah.
DVI output, 3 more USB ports, an Ethernet port, and another audio port. I can't remember what green is.
That's headphones or audio out, stereo out.
Yeah.
And that's at the back.
Yes. So a reasonable range. It's enough to plug in most of your common devices, I think.
And it's got some holes in the back so you can actually hang it up.
Yes, it comes with...
It's very slim.
Yes, in the box you get Visa mounting brackets and screws, so you can mount it on the behind of a monitor or something like that, the rear of a monitor. And there's a base as well, so you can stand it vertically. In terms of spec, it's not a million miles away from something like the Acer Revo devices. That it's never going to be like a supercomputer. No. It's great for desktop use, but it's never going to be a fantastic number cruncher. It just hasn't got the hardware for that. There is an Atom N270 CPU, which runs up to 1.6 gig. It's dual core, I think, but it's not...
So sort of a net top type machine.
Yes, in a nice sturdy steel case.
Yeah.
It's got 2 gig of RAM in it, so again, enough for most day-to-day uses, but not don't go try and process photos or video or anything too expensive on it.
So what did you try doing with it?
I updated it. The nice thing about these units from EcoPC is that they ship with Precise on it.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's up to date.
Yeah, the unit we had was just before Precise was released, so it was the last beta, I guess. But I upgraded that to the final Precise as soon as I could and get onto it. So that's nice. So you can actually buy it with the most current version of Ubuntu available now.
Cool.
Was that the desktop install or the server install?
It's the desktop.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes, and that was all set up, although it wasn't... they hadn't used the original equipment manufacturer settings that allow you to set your username and password. And things.
Oh, yeah.
So it was just set up with the username of EcoPC, and the password I had to guess.
Written on the box.
No, it didn't. I had to guess.
Was it password?
No, it was
EcoPC.
I also tried admin, and that didn't work. But yes, so it's quite a nice little unit. There's a Realtek, it's a gigabit NIC network card on the back of it. It uses Intel Mobile 945 graphics, embedded graphics. So again, not amazingly brilliant, but good enough for day-to-day use. The sort of thing, if Alan was here, he'd be talking about Ubuntu, because I'm sure it's the sort of thing that would be appropriate for that sort of use.
Yeah.
There is a big power button on the front, and that's quite nice. The power button works well.
Does it light up?
It does, and then it flickers when there's disk activity going on as well.
Yeah.
And a bit like the Vigilant MPC-L, the front USB ports only seem to be keyboard and mouse ports.
Oh, that's
you don't,
interesting.
Yeah, I plugged in a USB stick and another device into the front ports, and it didn't detect. So, but the keyboard and mouse worked fine, so I assume that's what's going on.
You said it was similar to the Revo, and we've got a media box on our Revo. Could it take that?
Probably, but don't try and get it to do any high definition stuff. I tried to get it to play back rather like the Revo doesn't do high definition very well. I tried to get it to play back a high definition clip, and it wasn't having that.
Right.
There's lots of frame dropouts and things. So it wouldn't be a good front end for a Myth TV box as it stands, unfortunately.
Looking through the holes in the side of the case, I can see something that looks like some sort of expansion slot. Is that a RAM slot or a PCI slot?
There's a PCI slot in there.
Right.
Although
CSI mark on the case.
Yeah. Although I would obviously challenge you to get anything into that slot.
Yeah, because the case is, as you said, about 4 centimetres high, and the PCI slot finishes about halfway up the case. So even a half-height card probably wouldn't fit in there with the lid on.
It's not really a practical option to use that without taking the lid off.
Yeah. The lid does come off quite easily.
It does, yes.
There's two screws on the top and one on the back, and then it looks like it just slides off.
Yep, it did indeed. I had a good poke around inside there, randomly resoldered a few things. No, I didn't really. One of the nice things about it, because it is an EcoPC, the environmental factors are that it uses sort of about 9 to 10 watts when doing stuff, sort of booting or desktop browsing, that sort of thing. Which is not too much at all, really. It's quite low. And when it was doing nothing, it was using 7 to 8 watts. So a little bit less, but not a huge amount less.
No, that's good.
You could afford to leave that on 24/7 if you wanted a little web server or something relatively low intensity, sort of personal email server, that sort of thing. It would work quite well for that. It is available with a range of Linux distributions, should Ubuntu not be the flavour that you want. Linux Mint, they will ship it with a Mahi and Vortex box.
Which well-known distros.
I'm sure you're aware, Mark, that the latter two are specialised media and storage distros.
Of course.
So obviously thinking people who can turn it effectively into a file server.
That's quite good, actually, to come have it pre-configured for the sort of thing that you might use it for. Yeah,
as a NAS device or something like that.
Yeah. Cool.
So that was interesting. It takes about 45 seconds to boot. And a minute to boot to a usable desktop, assuming you type in the password correctly first time, really quickly. The benchmark of choice, Hugo's random benchmark, took 31.7
generates
seconds.
Lots of numbers.
Yeah, it counts to 1 million or something, and then spits out how long that took.
Right.
31.7 seconds. So it is, it's not exactly nippy.
What's that relative to anything else?
Yeah, I can't remember.
If you go on the Handslug wiki, there's a big list of of
Hugo's
people's
random
results
benchmark.
of Hugo's random benchmark and the machine they ran it on.
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
Somebody did put Magrathea, or Deep Thought. I think. Yeah, as I said, it'll play back standard definition video, so YouTube and things are okay. Lots of frame drops at full screen or in high definition, unfortunately. It was a good system for that sort of general kind of use, not for great for media kind of playback and things. Although maybe there are optimizations that they can do in future. Who knows?
Do you know how much it costs?
Ooh, I don't actually. That's one of the things I didn't note down. So while I'm talking, I think Laura is going to be looking it up. There's a link in the show notes.
Oh, there is.
That will tell you how much it is. I think it's a couple of £100. It's about that sort of mark. They do have different options, as I say, with solid state discs, which are obviously more expensive, and you get less on them, and different distributions and things. But Laura,
It's $230 US dollars. So
okay, they are available in the UK. They do ship to the UK.
yeah.
I don't know if there's a UK price there.
And according to the Facebook like button, Andy Piper likes this.
Well, he'll like anything.
Yeah.
He's very indiscriminatory.
So, out of 10, what would you give the Eco PC?
For what it's intended for, I will give it a good solid 8 out of 10. I would really happily use one as a server.
Mm-hmm.
If it had enough disk in it. I
Yeah.
think that would be the problem. And it's a shame there isn't like an eSATA port or something that
Yeah, I
you
was
could hook up
thinking
an
that.
external disk
It's
array
got
to.
plenty of USB ports, but nothing for sort of high performance storage.
Yeah, that would make it a really killer kind of home file server thing, because it's so low power and so quiet.
Yeah.
If it could do that, that would be brilliant. But yeah, I mean, even so, 250 gig I think is the hard disk that's in there. Or 275 gig. That's a lot, more than enough for a lot of people to get going with. So, it's definitely a practical option. So so thank you to the people at EcoPC for sending us that. It is a useful little toy. So we will enjoy playing with that one, hopefully. So yes, right. Let's get on with the show.
I'm here at UDS with Michael Hall and David Pinella. Michael is the upstream liaison for Ubuntu, and David is the translations lead, and they both work in the community team. So why don't you just tell me what you've been doing for the last 6 months in a kind of like, a tweet. Should we start with you, Michael?
Okay. Well, I've only been with the community team since January, so I haven't had a full 6 months. And it's mostly been documentation for Unity, both for developing Unity and for app developers who want to integrate.
Okay, so and that's to get other developers more involved in the Unity development process?
Right, to get more contributors and specifically to get app developers taking advantage of the new technology that we offer.
Cool. And David, what have you been up to in the last 6 months?
Yeah, well, I've been in the community team for ages, which makes me feel a bit old now. So I've spent the last 6 months doing a bit less of the usual stuff that I do. I usually focus on translation, but last cycle I was basically targeting more the app developer community. So I've been working on outreach work for trying to get more people submitting their applications to Ubuntu and ultimately to the software center.
So is this related to the developer website developer.ubuntu.com, where people can find out more information about developing on the Ubuntu platform?
Exactly. So the cycle before this, we basically redesigned the whole developer.ubuntu.com site to make it basically a site that we're proud of and a site that we can point developers to find resources to showcase the awesome platform that they've got to submit applications and to ultimately get them to send their applications.
And do we on the website, do we mandate what tools people should be using? Are we in the Apple style where you will use Xcode, you will use these tools? Are we mandating that kind of thing on there, or are we just saying whatever your app is, bring it to Ubuntu?
That's a recurrent question, and that's what we do is we try to get the best of both worlds. I mean, one of the things that are good from Ubuntu, and one of the things that have been like basically points of our philosophy, so to say, is to bring some focus to the big choice that we've got in the Linux world. And in that regard, what we do on the developer side and in general is to recommend a set of tools, which basically to give some names, we recommend Python, Debian packaging, PPAs, the tools that Launchpad offers you to do your development, and that all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we do accept any applications in any particular language or tool sets. But what we do say is that if you use our recommended set of tools, and actually that's what you should be doing if you're a new developer, then your applications will be reviewed a lot quicker, and it will be a lot easier for them to get into the software center.
Oh, right. So we kind of favor if you use Quickly and Bazaar and Python and Qt and GTK and stuff like that.
It's not so much favoring them, but we know that they work, so that's what we recommend.
Exactly right. And in terms of people getting involved early on, I understand you got involved early on in some of this development process, Michael. How was your first involvement in that?
Right. Well, I got started about 2 years ago doing web development for the Loco team portal. So I was a web developer by trade, and I saw this interesting new project that Daniel Holbach at the time was working on. So I got started just making some small contributions to that and ended up owning the project.
That's what happens. So how did you get involved? Take us through the process of how you got from, seeing this website and then getting to, contribute.
So I was on the Florida Loco team, and we had been talking. There was another Django developer there, and the two of us had been talking about writing a kind of event planner for the team. And somehow or other, we found out that Daniel Holbach had this Loco team portal, which at the time was just a listing of teams, but that he wanted to put an event planner into that. So we turned our attention from making one just for the Florida team to adding that on to what was already there. And so we just kind of took what we had started with that, and there was already a little bit of work done. I don't remember by who, but we kind of merged the two efforts and added the first iteration of events into Loco Team Portal.
And what tools have you used in the development of the Loco Team? Obviously, it's a website, so there's the usual HTML and CSS. But what other tools do you use in that development process?
Right. So the back end, it's all Python and Django, which at the time was what I was doing professionally too. So it was a real easy transition for me to make.
And have you had many contributions from the community? To improve the portal, or has it mostly been developed by a small team of people inside Canonical?
It's, as far as I know, it's never really had much development from people inside Canonical. It's almost entirely done by community. The majority of the work that I put into it happened while I was community, before I was hired on by Canonical. And we generally have a small group of community, and there's a little bit of turnover on that. But there's generally been about 3 or 4 people at any given time that are working on it.
And I understand it's translated as well, so you have community people who get on board to do the translation?
Yeah, that's a really nice thing about the Loco portal. It's people got really, really excited on the first release when they realized that it could be completely translatable. So it's a resource for Loco teams, which is actually very useful to them, because Loco teams generally work in their own language, and to try to get some more people involved in their teams, it's a lot easier if that resource is not just exclusively in English. So, yeah, I mean, one of the really cool things about the Loco portal, as Mike was saying, is that it's entirely community based, as in the development, translation, and the direction it is taking. And this cycle, what we'd like to do is try to get more involvement in, as in getting more developers interested in contributing, because we've got a small team of developers, but it would be a lot easier if some more people contributed to it. I mean, Django and Python is a really, really nice tool set to work on, and some of the tasks where one can get started are relatively easy. And as Mike was saying, I mean, you can get involved in just one small thing and then take it to wherever you want to.
So do you have a concept of bite-sized bugs, or do you know of small little snippets of things that really need doing that nobody's done that the people in the community could pick up?
Yeah, I believe in Launchpad we have a tag specifically for bite-sized bugs, and that's a good way for people to get involved.
Okay, so if people wanted to get involved and they want to contribute, or maybe they see something that's a bit janky on the website and they want to try and help fix it, what should they do? Where should they come to get more information about this?
The first thing I would say is to join the #Ubuntu-website channel on Freenode, because that's where all of the community web developers hang out. So you could get a lot of advice there. The other thing is just go to launchpad.net/loco team portal, and that'll get you the code and everything that you need to get started.
So you could check out all the code from Launchpad. It's all open source.
Yeah, it's all in Bazaar. So you just do Bazaar branch and you get everything.
And can they run it on their local machine and play with it and monkey about with it before they, try and commit a branch or a merge request?
Yeah, that's one of the nicest things about Django is it really makes local development easy. You can run it without having to set up Apache or anything like that.
Cool. And do you have any ideas for what you're planning for the next 6 months with relation to the Loco portal? Anything in particular you'd really like to see other than getting more developers in looking after it?
Yeah, so right now we're trying to focus on the things that we can achieve in one cycle, and one of the things that we thought would be really useful and would create a big impact would be to make the front page of the Loco portal to be more visually rich in terms of trying to get people excited about joining Loco teams and making it for them easier to see what Loco teams are doing. Basically, we wanted to make it a resource that's more inspiring, that's really attractive to them. And some of the sessions that we will see here at UDS, one of them we have already started, will be about having some new content in there and perhaps redesigning the front page. Although I don't want to call it a redesign, I just want to
a refresh, maybe.
A refresh, that's a nice word, yeah.
So will there be design people involved in that, or is it still developers, making design choices? Is it a good idea to get designers into this process as well?
We have had some design input in the past from the Canonical design team. Unfortunately, the one person who is specifically working with us on that has moved on to Google or Amazon or I don't remember where, but they've since left Canonical, so yeah, we could definitely use some extra design help.
Okay. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now it's time for the bit about Ubuntu.
Yes, it is.
So, we mentioned just at the start of the show that we had been watching Mark Shuttleworth's keynote from UDS.
Yes, so the Ubuntu Developer Summit, where all good things happen. And it turns out that Mark's keynote's now quite a big affair. There was a set and lighting and
icons on the screen behind.
Yeah,
big unveiling of a product.
There was a revelation.
Yes,
from under a tea cloth.
So a lot of what he was talking about for the first sort of segment was a big sort of focus on the quality of Ubuntu and how they're looking to maintain that moving forwards. So yes. he was talking about how they've managed to achieve over the development cycle for 12.04 actually have a sort of a rolling release where the development version is always stable, as it were, so you can always use it.
Yes, there have been times in previous development cycles where there have been bad days that you shouldn't upgrade your system on those days.
Yeah.
If you've done so, then you're in big trouble because there's a dodgy kernel or a dodgy X release that basically means that your system won't boot or won't work in the ways that you anticipate it doing.
Yeah, and that makes it, I suppose, a lot more difficult to get good quality testing of the distribution as it comes together.
Yes.
Because you have people having to completely hose their machine and reinstall it and things like that, which doesn't go down too well sometimes, so people might tend to avoid it.
It's one of the reasons that I don't tend to either run the development version or upgrade very often. Presumably this is still not a guarantee that it will always be working in the future. It's just an objective for each cycle is that it won't break.
Yeah.
And I guess it doesn't cover every application either. It presumably just covers the core Ubuntu applications.
I think so. But one of the things he went on to say was that there's been a tool produced called Whoopsie Daisy, which is a tool for
nice work, chap.
Yes, for collating the information on bugs and crashes that are reported sort of throughout the development cycle, and I think after release as well, which can then be made available to the community and to upstream projects, so people can see sort of how their applications are performing, and therefore it sort of helps bring it all into line in terms of everybody always knowing, what they need to be working on to keep this stable platform rolling, as it were.
Yeah, there's a whole heap of extra work going on testing and QA and things now, but it seems to have grown immensely, that section, over the last 2 cycles or so, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose it becomes increasingly, well, as your user base grows and you want to move out into different markets, it's sort of a reputation thing. It becomes very important.
He was even talking about a little VGA switching device.
Oh yeah, that was really cool. A little an open hardware device, which it looked like you plug it into your VGA port, then you plug a monitor in it, and then it can be remote controlled to basically simulate unplugging and replugging the monitor, which then allowed them to really easily test multi-monitor support.
Yeah, he was talking about multiple monitors. I wonder whether it had 2 outputs.
It looks like
two inputs and 1 output, maybe.
It's quite chunky for a connector, wasn't it?
It looked like it had a VGA port on each side. So I guessed it had, you plugged 2 cables into it and then it chopped them apart on a remote command. I'm not sure how you controlled it, but
that was open hardware.
Yeah, it was open hardware as well, which was really cool. So in fact, you can even look up and find out how it works and run yourself,
and then let us know how it works.
That's podcast@ubuntu-uk.org.
Yes.
He then moved on to talking about hyperscale deployments, which is a great new buzzword for us to get used to.
The water becomes ice, or vice versa.
Other way around.
Is it?
Yes. Once you get to 100,000 servers in your data center, ice becomes water.
Yeah.
Huh?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Basically, he was talking about how what sort of issues need to be addressed when you start looking at sort of the kind of scale of deployments that companies like Google and Amazon have.
Yes.
And with people wanting to deploy their own sort of cloud systems, things like OpenStack deployments in their own data centers, then you're looking at having lots and lots of small servers, like that sort of number. And so Ubuntu needs to look at how it can be deployed and how it can be deployed quickly and easily without having to go through a whole install process on each one of the thousands of machines.
And part of that was having the install runtime of less than a minute.
Yeah, that was a figure he quoted. He wants to get a server installed to less than a minute. And one of the things he was saying about that was that part of it will be through auto configuration, so you can so it can find the services it needs. I suspect that'll be managed to an extent through Juju, which we spoke about on the last show in our interview with George Castro.
Yes.
So you'd have a pre-configured script which basically tells your machine how to set itself up, and then you can deploy that across lots of different servers.
Yeah. And there was an unveiling of
the big unveiling.
The big unveiling. The T-tail came off, and there was a 2U server underneath it.
Yeah, it was quite interesting to watch the video, and they all pull the T-tail off, and there's a server, and everyone applauds. I was just thinking how many conferences there would be where that would be met with applause.
Like most people go, what's that?
What's that?
What's that?
Yeah. But yeah, it's
Is it a toaster?
A big toaster.
It's a big, it's sort of a rack-mounted 2U server case, which held a 48-node, 192-core ARM server, which is quite a lot to have in one box.
Yes.
So this is a sort of a new level of density of servers for your data center, I suppose.
Yeah. To get that into 2U is quite impressive.
It's quite a lot. They were saying they could have essentially 1,000 machines in one server rack. And the fact that they're all in one case and tightly packed together means that they can communicate rather than having to have each thing go through a network switch. You can have the communication between each node all within the case, and therefore really high bandwidth.
Cool. And that's going to run 1204.
Yeah, that's going to run 1204, and they're going to start shipping development machines this month.
It was Hewlett Packard, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It was because it was a company who specialised in ARM. ARM servers, I think.
He did mention HP at the end, I think.
Yeah, I think HP are the ones who have said that Ubuntu will be certified for use on all of their ProLight
right.
servers. But
right. Yes.
I guess they're all x86 rather than ARM.
Yes. Cool. And there were some ideas for the heads-up display as well.
Yeah, I thought this looked really interesting because at the moment the heads-up display is basically just a searchable interface for your application menus. But
Heads-up display being...
heads-up display as in when you press the Alt key, you get a little search box like you do when you press the Home or Windows key to get the dash. If you press Alt, then you get a box that says type your command, and you type in vaguely the command you want. And it'll give you all of the menu items which sort of vaguely match that.
Cool.
So if you don't know where it is, you can find a particular command.
Exactly. Very useful for things like the GIMP, where they've got lots of layers of lots of menus, and you think, I want something to do with colour, but I don't know where it'll be. So you type colour, and it'll give you everything that has colour in it. And then you press enter, and it'll activate that menu item. But Mark showed a mock-up of an idea they had whereby you could actually expose the features of that menu item's dialogue and have that integrated into the HUD. So say you typed in colour in the GIMP and then it had like the colour balance option, you could highlight that and then it would show you the UI for adjusting the colour balance actually in the HUD itself without you having to open up the GIMP's own dialogue and mess around with it there.
Wow.
Which would be really cool.
Sounds like a lot of work as well.
Yeah, because there's a lot of work to do at application level in terms of actually exposing the functionality.
What was pretty cool was they kept emphasising the fact that they were doing loads of user testing of all this stuff. Yeah. And it wasn't just coming up with the designs and doing the funky designs and implementing them. They were doing huge amounts of research from the sounds of it.
Cool. Well, we will link to that in the show notes, and if you've got half an hour or so to spare, have a good watch. It's good. There's also an interesting item on John O'Bacon's blog today saying that EA have released 2 games on Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Apparently they're just web-based games, so technically all you get is a shortcut on your desktop. It's a launcher icon and that's about it. But it's interesting to see a big company like EA engaging with Ubuntu and deciding that it's a platform worth having their games available through.
Yeah, so you can actually download them through the Ubuntu Software Center to get your link.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, so I suppose that'll give them a good sort of a measure of how popular the game is going to be to or games in general to Linux users.
I guess it's not really cost them anything. The game is still there on the web.
Yeah.
They're deploying a tiny file, which is and apparently they're coming to UDS on Wednesday. They're going to be able to talk to the attendees there about that new change.
Cool.
Go on.
No, sorry, I hadn't read that far ahead yet.
Okay. There was also a plenary from Chris Kenyon talking about OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, which had some interesting statistics, which apparently generally aren't usually talked about very much outside Canonical. And in the talk, Chris gave the following statistics. 8 to 10 million units were shipped last year worldwide, presumably units running Ubuntu, by various OEMs. And Canonical will be opening their first Beijing office this year, which is that's good to know.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, there's lots of potential users in China. So
yeah, and a lot of manufacturing of hardware as well.
Of course, yeah.
That's where basically all of it comes from.
Yeah.
And last year, Ubuntu shipped on $7.5 billion worth of hardware.
$1 billion.
A couple of weeks late for our billion news.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe Billion News will have to make a return.
Oh, good.
And finally, not about Ubuntu this week. Apache OpenOffice.org. No, sorry, I'm not sure if it's now called OpenOffice.org. It might just be called Apache OpenOffice.
You wrote this.
Version 3.4 has been released, which is the first release under Apache stewardship since Oracle donated the code to the Apache Foundation.
Yes, having annoyed all the OpenOffice.org developers who then went and formed LibreOffice.
Yes.
So, does anybody care?
Well, this is what I'm wondering. Well, the interesting thing is now that it's been released from the Apache Foundation, all the code is now under an Apache license, which means it could then be included in the LibreOffice code base.
Right. So the two could potentially merge.
Potentially.
Okay.
So I expect it's a lot more complicated than that now that the projects will have diverged quite substantially and probably fixed a lot of the same problems in different ways.
Will
Yes.
they have diverged that much? Because it's not been that long, and they are massive code bases.
It hasn't. I think LibreOffice people were waiting to chop lots of old code out and to refactor things quite quickly. I think they made a lot of progress quite quickly. So, we shall
it'll
see.
be interesting to see how it goes over the next couple of releases.
Yes, it's not a bad thing to have it out there, and people who are on OpenOffice specifically haven't made the move are able to continue to upgrade. So that's a good thing. And that's all in the bit about Ubuntu and not about Ubuntu this week.
And that's all for this episode. Thank you for listening, and you can find out how to get in touch with us on our website, podcast.ubuntu-uk.org, including voicemail numbers and Twitter feeds, Facebook and IRC channels. Let us know what you think about the show, or give us your thoughts about Ubuntu and the community around it, and join us on Tuesday the 22nd of May for our next live episode.
Yes, we're hoping to have more content from UDS as well.
Yes, indeed.
And Alan may even have returned from his
Alan, if you're
wandering by then.
listening,
We want more
we are hoping to
content.
have some more content from you.
It gives us more cake eating time.
Yes, that worked quite well today.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent. So, see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.